Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on the importance and value of advocacy within the disabilities community. Today, we have the privilege of hearing from a group of self-advocates who will share their experiences, insights, and successes in advocating for themselves and others. Advocacy plays a crucial role in promoting inclusion, accessibility, and equality, and our panelists here today are going to show how each of us can make a difference. So let's give them a warm welcome as they share their journeys and then take the time to introduce themselves. So we're going to start off with Octavio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Octavio. I am the legislative liaison for the New Jersey Association for the Deaf.
Hey everyone, my name is Dalia. I am an advocate and I am an individual with a disability, and I'm going to be sharing my story. So here you go.
I'm Robert Jackson, and I'm an individual with a disability and a professional as a self-advocate. And I'll be answering some questions what I think self-advocacy is.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Nunez. I am a current member of the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, writer and podcaster living with cerebral palsy.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. So first off, I would like to ask you guys to talk a little bit about what does advocacy mean to you and why is it important for individuals with disabilities to advocate?
Advocacy has a variety of meanings. As it applies to me, it's about ensuring that individuals with disabilities have their rights recognized and have access to necessary resources in various sectors like policy, education, and mental health. And it's crucial for improving programs and services to make them more accessible to our communities.
What disability means to me is it can be defined as different things, whether that's personally or with a mindset. I think it's very important because those who don't speak up or those who can't speak up, it's best that we can advocate for others who may not feel like they can speak up for themselves, but they know that they're not alone.
So what advocacy means to me is that being able to fight for what you want and deserve. And of course, some people may not be able to speak up, but they can still fight for what they want. And being able to, and the reason why advocacy is important to me and other individuals with disabilities is that we have more needs, so we have to fight hard to get what we want. And if we don't advocate for it, nobody's going to do it for us. And the reason why, and I'm glad I learned self-advocacy, even though I was at a late age, I'm glad I learned it because, see, if you don't have advocacy in the picture, your life won't be as fulfilling as if it was when you do have advocacy skills. And that's my take on it.
Advocacy to me is life without fear, because in society, when we grow up, we're taught not to do anything. We're taught learned helplessness. So advocacy is a way of freedom, not only for ourselves as individuals, but we become a voice for others who might not be able to speak typically. So it serves a dual purpose.
Thank you, everyone. Advocacy is as broad as it can be, and I appreciate you all sharing your different perspectives. So with that note in mind, can you guys please share a success story where you've influenced policy or advocated for change in your community and what that looked like?
I am currently advocating for the Right to Mental Health for Individuals Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing Act, which focuses on improving mental health access by increasing the number of interpreters, deaf staff, and training on deaf culture and needs. I consistently reach out to mental health programs and collaborate with various organizations that serve the deaf, hard of hearing, and disabilities communities, as well as general mental health services to build stronger support for this bill. Now, through these efforts, awareness of the importance of this issue is growing. One positive outcome is that recently a hospital established American Sign Language training to educate their hearing employees, which is a great start. They will know about deaf culture and deaf sensitivity and reduce the barriers to treatment.
I am a recent graduate of the College of New Jersey. During my time at living in New Jersey, I participated in a partnership called Partners in Policymaking of New Jersey. It's it's through the Boggs Center, and I sat alongside my peers, and Carrie included. And we as a community and as advocates and family members and friends and peers all came up with plans how we can better advocate for those in different communities, such as schooling and housing, and just like as parents and siblings and peers and advocates, and individuals with disabilities. Because policy, as I have learned, is never over. It's just the start of something. And we have a lot to do to get it where it needs to be.
Well, actually, I have two instances that I want to tell you about in my personal experience with advocacy and policy changes. The first issue had to do with me getting Social Security. Now, I used to get Social Security because I was determined disabled by the Social Security Administration because it was hard for me to find a job and maintain employment. But as I was working and collecting Social Security kept docking my checks for jobs that didn't even pay me a good minimum wage and had no benefits. And on top of that, they were taking overpayment fees out of my check. So someone told me that this doesn't sound right. So I wrote the Social Security Administration to try to appeal it. And they said they can't find their reason for the deductions. And then later on, I had to go over their head and I reached out to a senator, which his name was Chris Smith, and he demanded an investigation into the case. Come to find out, I was underpaid all along because most of the information they had in their computers didn't line up with what I actually worked. Some jobs I had for a month, some jobs I had for 2 months. But they had down there that I worked the whole year, which wasn't true. So finally we got that resolved. And then another instance too, as far as my advocacy work, I've been involved with Community Ownership Center for Advocacy Leaders. I've been involved in a lot of different advocacy groups, like the Black IDD Consortium. And of course, I've been involved in the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Project, and I've been involved in a lot of advocacy groups. And it helped me to become a better person by fighting for what my needs and wants are. And another issue I also dealt with which was with housing. When I was getting ready to leave my apartment in Princeton, before I moved to West Windsor, it was hard for me to find an apartment because being that I'm working, I don't qualify for Section 8. I don't qualify for low income housing. I don't qualify for market rate housing. It was hard for me to find a place, even with my DDD voucher. So here's what I did. I wrote the Department of Community Affairs. I wrote Andrew Schweiker's office. I wrote Bonnie Boston Coleman. I said, hey, this is totally unacceptable that I'm working and I'm disabled and I can't afford a decent place to live, but yet I have to not work or I have to be super rich to get a place. But I just wanted to make it known that this has to change. And I feel, no, you don't have to get involved in politics to fight for change. But you can fight for change and let it be known that they need to do something about it and that the policies that they're putting in place aren't working. And that's my take on it.
My success story is that apart from my work with the council, I am also a writer and a podcaster. One of my writings ended up in an op-ed in a local paper. And because of that op-ed, I was invited to the White House to speak at the 25th anniversary of the Olmsted decision. So your hobbies might become your success stories. So don't give up your hobbies. Don't give up your passions.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your success stories. They truly are great. And it kind of shows how different advocacy could look like, from legislators to kind of more local to, even as Kevin says, hobbies. For your advocacy journeys, what resources have you found are available to help people with disabilities become better advocates?
The resources that are available to assist people in the disability communities are many. I will mention four. One is the National Association for the Deaf. They, again, are a national organization that protects the rights of deaf and hard of hearing individuals and helps them access hospital services, air travel, captioning, things related to the ADA. And they serve the rights or protect the rights of people in the deaf and hard of hearing community by providing in legislative training and legislative processes. The next one is the National Deaf Center, the NDC. They offer information and strategies to improve education and employment outcomes for deaf individuals. The next one is the Hearing Loss Association of America, the HLAA, and they focus on improving communication for people with hearing loss through education and advocacy. The fourth and final one is the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, the NJCDD, and they have a lot of online resources that help engage legislators to promote policies that improve the lives of people with disabilities in New Jersey. Now, those four are crucial for assisting people in becoming better prepared to advocate.
To correctly answer this question, I don't know if there is a correct answer, but in my opinion, I have two answers that could possibly benefit the question. The first answer is it comes from within yourself. It does not just come over time. I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn how to advocate on my path at school. I didn't even know how to advocate until I saw my peers around me do it. And then I kind of picked up on what they were doing. And then I learned to advocate through them and through my family. And another source is, like I have previously mentioned, was the Boggs Center, which is the Partners in Policy programming, the Partners in Policy making. They help with advocacy.
Okay. I think change has to start with yourself first, because if you're tired of the same thing over and over again and you feel you need to change, it's up to you to say something and get out there and fight for what you want and deserve. I know I learned how to advocate for myself when I was a lot older and into adulthood, because when I was younger, I didn't know how to advocate for myself because I didn't have the skills and hardly nobody taught me. Not the school system, not my parents, not even family members. They kept saying, oh, if you want something, go get it. That's the only kind of self-advocacy skills that I got. So it was up to me, which it was true. So I was tired of a lot of things that were happening in my life. So I had to take a stand and step up and say something. I said, I can't keep doing this year after year. I said, look, I can't live off of a measly minimum wage salary, not minimum wage, but salary that's a little bit above minimum wage with no benefits. And I can lose my benefits because of it. So I decided, if I'm going to lose my benefits, I want a job with benefits or a career and something that I can be proud of and something that has benefits. And of course, the first resource for self-advocacy is learning how to speak up for yourself and developing communication skills. And secondly is the Center for Leadership Academy. There's also the People First. There's also the National Family Planning Council. There's a lot of different resources out there all across New Jersey and all across the country. But still, it takes yourself to make a stand, because nobody's going to come and knock on your door and say, oh, do you want me to teach you how to do self-advocacy skills? You have to go out there and want it, and act like you want it and go get it.
Like my fellow individuals on this panel, advocacy skills are learned over time. And one of the things I learned was, on a systemic level, there's a lot of disconnect. So I joined SAVE, self-advocates becoming empowered is the only national advocacy group run strictly by individuals with disabilities. And my job is to represent the Mid-Atlantic states. So one of my duties is to connect advocacy groups with each other so we're not just all siloed within ourselves and we can all focus on the same mission of advancing the disability community.
Thank you everyone for sharing such great resources. If anyone is interested in learning more information about these resources, you should be able to find them below the video or on our website. So advocacy journeys are different for everyone, and it's not always a straight, easy road. There's always some bumps that we find. So I would like to hear from you guys about some challenges you've experienced in advocating for yourself, and what did you learn from these challenges?
What I've learned from advocating for myself about these barriers and challenges we face is in obtaining interpreters for hospital appointments, job interviews, university classroom interpreters that I've required, where the other party would explain to me that there were budget constraints. I would let them know that they had to provide in sign language interpreters for effective communication. Despite my constant explaining to them, they still refused. And so I looked into the ADA. I contacted the National Association for the Deaf, which I mentioned earlier, and the NAD has a template with an action plan. And with that action plan in hand, with the legal citations it provided, I gave that to the various entities that had turned me down. It explained to them clearly that they had to follow the Americans with Disabilities Act. So this is a wonderful resource that anyone can use to address any barriers or challenges. As I said, these are available through the NAD or a web search or other types of research you can do to find additional resources.
One of my personal challenges through my advocacy journey was, since I am an individual with a disability, one of the challenges I learned how to advocate over through the years is how to access medication, because I do not like talking to people when it comes to medication, because I am often treated like I'm stupid in some cases, and it gives me very high anxiety, because then I'll just hand the phone over to my mom, be like, nope, I can't do this. No one understands me. I can't even get my medication that I need. But as the years went on, because I know I need the medication, I advocated more verbally and patiently, and I did it within myself. I learned that if I can do it for myself first, I can advocate for others because I can't always rely on those around me if it's something I need.
Well, to get people to believe that the biggest challenge that I had, because I didn't look my age and I had developmental delay, and some people still don't actually think I'm 47, that some people still think I'm 28 or 29 or 30. So that's a barrier. They don't take me seriously as being an adult. And another challenge that I have is that trying to prove that I'm right, prove to people that I'm right instead of wrong, and letting people know that I know what I'm talking about, and trying to get people to work in my corner and help me advocate for what I want. So again, that's where I have the biggest challenge. I don't look my age. I look like somebody who's younger, even though I'm considered an adult. They don't consider me in the same way as they do a neurotypical. And that's what burns me up. And sometimes I have to raise my voice sometimes to get people to listen to me. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm being aggressive, but if that's the way to get people, the only way people will listen, that's the method that I have to use. And that's all I have to say.
In my case, the challenges I faced. I have a twin brother who also was diagnosed with the same developmental disability, but our needs are different. So as a result, I had to learn that the resources I needed were different than the resources he needed as a person. So I had to learn to balance my needs with his needs and constantly look for different tools that could serve one or both of us at the same time, whether that be doctors or direct support staff or even finding the right foods to get at the market. Um, so life is always a balancing act of what I need and what he needs to live our best lives.
So thank you everyone for sharing little highlights from your advocacy journey. So the last question I want to get some answers from you guys on is, what advice would you give to individuals with disabilities who are just starting or looking to learn about advocacy and how they could become better advocates in their communities?
The advice I would share for individuals who are part of the disability community, who want to advocate for themselves and on behalf of their community, is to start with professional development and legislative pre-training, both at the national and local levels, to build your knowledge and skills. Also, research and collaboration with various organizations or community leaders is also a key to becoming an effective advocate. Also, I would say never give up until you succeed at reaching your goal.
My advice is to start with yourself if at all possible. That's how I personally learned, but it's different for everybody. If you can't start with yourself, then start small and build your way up. Advocacy is never something you should be afraid to try to do or advocate for. There's always a need for advocacy, and don't be afraid to follow along the way.
I think what I want to share is that the sooner the person with a disability learns how to self-advocate for their wants and needs, the better off their life will be. So it's best to learn early. And studies have shown that students or people with disabilities who learn advocacy skills early on had a more better post-secondary outcome, a better outcome with moving to a different place in the country instead of staying in their area.
My advice for future advocates is to make a list of goals for yourself. Make a list of goals to help others. And don't get discouraged when you have setbacks that are guaranteed to happen. The key to advocacy is to not give up and to stay focused on what you need, what you want, and what your community needs, what your community wants. Stay focused and don't give up.
Thank you so much, Octavio, Dalia, Robert, and Kevin, for participating in our panel this evening on advocacy and kind of highlighting the importance of it and how it has shaped your lives and how you guys have, and all the amazing work that you guys have done and how it's shaped the lives of other people with disabilities in your communities and throughout the state. But with that, our panel has come to a close, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me on this panel this evening.